All right, everybody, welcome back. This segment is the Office of the Citizen. My name is Regina Askia Williams. I'm a New York based family nurse practitioner. It's a pleasure to have you. I have the honor of having with me in the studio Mr. Clayton Udo. Mr. Clayton, welcome to the Office of the Citizen. Along, say hello
Thank,
to
thank you so much, and I'm highly honored to be invited to your show. I'm really, really flattered.
You're very welcome. Today, maybe we're going to have the fireworks that always come with you. We'll see. But we're looking for, or we're hoping for, a constructive discussion that will really inspire all AkwaIbomites and inspire them and motivate them to find ways to help build or help hold up our dear state. Okay? We also have in the studio Mr. Franklin Isong. Mr. Franklin, where did you go? Okay, give me a minute. I'm trying to get Mr. Franklin on. Yes, I see him. Okay. We have Mr. Franklin. Yes, Mr. Franklin runs a CLO, a Civil Liberties Organization in AKS, and they monitor the progress and growth of all that concerns AKS and make recommendations to the government on how they could do better. Gentlemen, you're welcome to Office of the Citizen. It is a pleasure to have you. All right. Now, before we go on, let us have like a situation report from Mr. Franklin, because you're on ground and you understand what is going on there. Maybe you'll be in a better position to tell us how it is going on in AkwaIbom right now, the happenstances there, especially as concerns the COVID situation and the palliative the government is handing out to the people, or how they are monitoring the palliative and making sure that whoever needs this is getting it. Mr. Franklin, over to you, please.
Once again, let me thank you for bringing me on to your program. We've been scheduling and we keep disappointing ourselves.
Yes.
Today, I'm happy to see my brother Clinton, and I think he's doing fine.
Yes.
Thank God that he recovered from the COVID-19. Of course, COVID-19 is not a death sentence. It's just it's just a temporary break. Call it 14 days break, and then you are treated, and then you are back to life.
Exactly.
So it's just that we thank God for your life. Thank God for your life. Back to your question. Luckily enough, the state governor of AkwaIbom State just finished his interview, which was live on social media. He just ended at about 6 p.m. Nigerian time a few minutes ago. That is why I could not join much earlier in the program, which we scheduled for 5 p.m. Nigerian time. Governor Emmanuel took time to explain the situation on ground, and also try to educate the people of the state on how to go about because of the COVID-19 pandemic. He talked about the fact that we are now on community transmission. That is, it has left the capital city now of Uyo. It is now going to community level because people have come in from across the state. You recall that we had a lockdown where there was no interstate movement. The flight was not allowed to fly in and fly out. People were just restricted to stay in their locations. And so at that time, the COVID-19 wasn't spreading because there were some kind of checks put in place. Churches were not allowed to operate. Markets were under strict restriction. Public places, gatherings were not even allowed. Burials, wasn't allowed. But now it seems that there is a gradual normalcy returning, and so that has now opened up the state economy and also opened up people coming in from outside the state. And mind you that AkwaIbom State is a transit state where people pass through to other states, and so it has brought in a lot of influx of people. And of course, COVID-19, as we know, is not something that shows on people's faces. So unfortunately, we had the number increasing by the day.
Yes.
So government talked about the fact that we had 4 deaths recorded recently.
Yeah.
He talked about the palliative that he said has been distributed, and then he talked about the second PRC lab that will soon be commissioned. now waiting for the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to come to give approval for
Mr. Francis, let me ask you a
for
question.
the
Yes,
COVID-19.
let me ask
Yeah,
you a
go
question.
ahead. Go ahead.
Does AkwaIbom really know the number of people that have been exposed to the COVID virus? Do they know the number of people who have been infected? Truly, are the test facilities available to people to get tested? Talk to me about that. And then he said 4 deaths. Is it really 4 deaths? Because that's not what we're hearing from people on ground.
No, yeah. On the whole, we have 7. We had 7 on the whole.
Yeah.
We had 3 much earlier, and the now 4 that he just announced today, which has been updated in the NCDC website. Okay. So on the whole, we have 7 officially announced 7. Okay. Of course, people who have malaria and other illnesses that have passed on perhaps may not have been COVID-19 pandemic caused or related. Yes. Now, on the issue of the number of tests, well, now that we have, the government talked about the fact that we have so far tested over 1,000. I think within this week from his account.
And the population of the state is a little over 5 million.
No, I mean, quoting the governor. Yes. He said within the week, No, it's not on the whole.
Yes.
Like maybe perhaps between Monday and today.
Okay.
Because before now there wasn't facility to test. Yes. So we send our test samples to other states. But now that we have the lab already that has been commissioned and approved by the NCDC, so we send our samples to the lab at Itumbang. And so the governor said that so far that there has been over 1,000 tests being done within the week. So if you add what has been done much earlier, it means that there are a lot of progress compared to what we used to have before we have the lab. Now he said there is another lab again that has been built by the state government and commissioned, waiting for an approval from the NCDC to be able to run the test.
Okay, It seems like Clayton has a lot to say. He's been shaking his head.
Yes, I can see him. I can see him shaking his head.
What do you have to say?
Yes, I can see him shaking his head.
First of all, I want to thank, again, I'll take this time and I'll be quick about it, just to thank Regina Askia, for inviting me to, Regina Askia, Mrs.
Williams, my husband just texted, please.
I know, Regina Askia Williams. Believe it or not, she's an icon. She's an icon who, in the earlier times, in where we come from, came forward as a representative of our area into what we would now say would be the social sphere of the society in Nigeria. And she represented even Nigeria internationally. So, and this is, and as from an icon into a statesperson now, someone who is very, very interested and has the love for AkwaIbom State, I'm very, very honored to be on her show. The next thing I'll say, and I'll try to be very constructive here, because it's not about bashing. It's more about us being constructive.
Yes.
We have to be careful about how we connect the pandemic. And I know it all involves money. It involves money, but it's a pandemic. The time it takes for you to build a lab, thank God, and I want to believe, because the impression my brother Franklin his song is giving to me is that it's not full-blown. It's not as full-blown as it is in the United States, but we may not know, because truly and honestly, you are under-tested in the state of AkwaIbom State. The testing is not enough. The testing is not near to enough. When we consider that there's an incubation period for this, people can carry this thing around for at least a week or so before it becomes full-blown. And when we consider that even after you become well, you could still carry traces of this in your tears, in your saliva, and around you. We need more testing than that. Yeah, we need more testing than that, and we need to start to learn to. And this is not criticism, but we have to start turning into a society that thinks of quick build, quick tear down. Doesn't have to be a building. Could be a tent with a generator, but has all the facilities inside for quick testing.
Yes.
Does not have to be a building in which a contract was awarded to somebody and people had some money to put in their pockets, for crying out loud. Because if the pandemic picks up the kind of frequency that we have here in the United States, then it means the line is going to be overwhelmed. My sister asked a question already, a very big question. 5 million, and we say 1,000 have been tested. that is, it's a
Within
tough.
the week, not on the whole. The 1,000 is not on the whole.
Yeah, even if you multiply the 1,000 by the past week, see, let's say 1,000 a week. I think they're still under testing. You know, if you
Of course, of course.
Okay, all right. So I am hoping that the governor is making plans to erect like tents, you know, for quick testing, especially when you consider, like Clayton said, the incubation period and the fact that, you know, it's not very visible. You know, people can be carrying it for a long time before they actually show symptoms, and in that time they are passing it on, and the pandemic, you know, keeps gaining grounds like what we have here. And then let us talk about the healthcare system in AkwaIbom.
Sorry, please. Before you move on,
yes,
let me quote the governor what he said. He said, yes, it is not financially possible to build the PRC lab in every local government of AkwaIbom State because it is expensive to build. The equipment are expensive to, you know, to install, to import, and then to build. So he was simply just saying, of course, some states don't even have it. Some states send their samples to AkwaIbom. That I know too well, because it's expensive to build. As it stands now, even importing most of this equipment to Nigeria is not, if the possibilities in most times is not there because of the pandemic itself. Most equipment are not even allowed to come in.
Point. You know what we do here? We have tents. We have tents.
Yes, I know. On the tent.
And we collect we collect blood samples.
Yes, on the tent.
Refuge them and then send them to a lab. So it's very easy to set up tents and get these things going.
Yeah, on the tent issue, I agree with you. I agree with Clayton. I also agree with you, Regina. But the point is, when the governor was building the Itumbang Isolation Center, the 300 base spaces, they asked questions were asked. Why don't you erect tent and make a temporary structure? He said that, of course, COVID-19 has come to stay. It's not something that we know how long it will stay. That's one. Two, what the state is building is going to last a test of time. Like the PCR lab that we have now in Itumbang can be used to test other diseases. So it's also it's like an upgrade of the medical facilities we have in the state. I'm not holding brief for the government. In any case, I know that we are under-tested. We need more of testing.
Yes. Okay.
Franklin, I hear what the governor has to say. And that is, there's another part of this show that we're going to talk about something very interesting, which is about what I would call foundational structures, foundational amenities, or foundational infrastructure. That's one thing. But when you're talking about a pandemic, you cannot, in the middle of a pandemic, start building foundational infrastructures. I'm not criticizing. I think it's a good idea. Build it to last for time, but it's actually a race against time.
Yes.
I don't know what my host would think about what I've just said.
It is a race against time, absolutely, because of the peculiar nature of this pandemic. So really, this is not the time to be putting up, making plans for future situations. Every effort, every resource, everything you have should go into a massive drive to test, isolate, and contain this virus so you can stem the infection. But let us go ahead and talk about the healthcare system. Do you think that AkwaIbom has the manpower to follow up? Because even if you don't have tents and things, you can send people out, right? Like contact tracing people. We send them out here to talk to people where they have been, who they have seen. Do they have the manpower to mount this kind of drive in a bid to contain the spread of the infection? Talk to me, please.
Well, manpower, I will tell you, no, not even the country has, because
everybody's unemployed.
Yeah, not even in the country as a whole. In Nigeria, we don't have enough manpower. What we have here is our doctors and nurses are going abroad, seeking for greener pasture over there because their welfare is better taken care of abroad. So, yeah. So it's difficult to say that the country has enough manpower to tackle this. So now going back to the state, we don't have enough. I think we still need enough. We need enough hands, enough manpower training, enough facilities on ground. I keep criticizing the state budget on health and education and agri, these three sectors.
Yes.
Education, agri, and health always suffer, under budgeting. And
Yes.
so it is not what we have on ground now is not enough. We still need enough manpower to be able to measure with the pandemic. The pandemic, we are told, is a war we are fighting, and so you need more. You need more of the soldiers on ground who are also aware of the of the effect, of the adverse effect of the pandemic itself. So I don't think we have enough. Even at the local government level, we may not have enough. Now that it has now gone to community level, it's now moved from the urban cities to the rural areas.
Okay.
It will be too dangerous to be able to cope, except that there is more awareness created at the village level, at the local government level, to be able to to make people to comply with the protocol that has been established by the NCDC and World
This is
Health.
a perfect opportunity for massive employment for young people, because there are many people out there, many young people out there who are either underemployed or not at all employed. And then the unemployment indices in Akwa Ibom is really high. So with this pandemic here, an opportunity presents where a ton of people could be quickly trained on how to educate the public on containing COVID-19. Quickly trained on how to teach people to protect themselves, social distancing, face masking, hand washing, and all that. Instead of saying that the manpower is not there, the state could generate the manpower by investing in, like human capital development, get the young people and get them to work. This is a perfect segue into the unemployment problem in Akwa Ibom State. Clayton, could you talk to me about that? And when you're talking about that, please suggest ways that we could institute a massive employment drive, especially now that COVID has hit, the state has no money, people have no money. What can we do now to help people with their economic situation, their personal economic situations?
Thank you, my ever gracious host. What I want to say here is this. One thing I've seen in AkwaIbom State, which is really a tragedy, is that we don't understand that the wealth of the state is connected to the amount of manpower it has. We are still in this mentality that the wealth of the state is in politics or is in whatever oil derivatives will be sent over to the state. It is an error. If we tap in correctly into the amount of people in the state, oil will become 2% of the total economy. Okay. Now, there's a reason why Dubai imports workers day and night to come in and deal with all these superstructures they're building and the incredible projects they're doing, because the people it actually create the society, create what we see. So it's going to be a challenge for the government of Akwa Ibom State to figure out how do we convert from waiting for money from the feds to creating wealth using manpower, which has been the traditional way true developed societies have been creating it. So let me start with this. And I wrote down some notes on how this can be done. One of the things we can do is we start by identifying what is lacking in the society. I will say this, and I'll say this, and I say this with respect to all players involved. When His Excellency, the ex-governor of Akwa Ibom State, Victor Attah, drew the blueprint of the state, that was a wonderful thing. But I think that it was not well thought out, because the way he drew the blueprint and the way everything was laid down, Akwa Ibom shouldn't be a state where people are so highly unemployed. Now, when the next governor came, which was His Excellency, God's will, Obodo Akpabio, he tried to the best of his ability and his vision to execute the blueprint. But I would say this, and I'll say that he was excellent as a governor in creating accessibility. He was in my opinion, I call him the accessibility governor, meaning roads, airport, just accessibility, opening up space, accessibility. He created space, a lot of space. I will say that for the record. Opening up some levels of tourism and things like that. Now, within these, and now we have His Excellency Udom Emmanuel, who came in, and he talks about industrialization. Unfortunately, he talks about industrialization without the formative foundation. So what do we mean by the formative foundation?
Mm-hmm.
24 hours electricity. Can we create an industry there and employ people? 24/7 hours water supply. Can we create an industry there and employ people? 24/7, AkwaIbom at its level can create wireless internet for itself. Internet, a cable, we have, it's possible. If we could create Ibom power plant, we can create internet. 24/7, if we create the internet, jobs behind that, you see? So we start first with the foundations that create developed countries, which is simple: water, light, internet. Okay? And then we move on to the next. We move on to other things like the service companies that service these industries, employment to that. The companies that deal with things like housing, we could go into a housing scheme. If we go into a massive housing scheme, what are the companies that we need to service that particular industry? We go into that and employ people. Now, it's interesting to note, and here's the most interesting thing too, very, very interesting. When you have the formative foundation on the ground, you will be able to have indicators to know if the people are doing well or they're not doing well. Because when the people finally come up and say, we can't pay our water, we can't pay our light, we can't pay our internet, we can't pay our rent, then you know the economy is down. Right now, in the way AkwaIbom State is built, you really don't know. You really don't know. So therefore, you could assume, because there's not really any records to show that things are bad, that everything is A-okay and that the people are just, complaining because they don't get free handouts. So, but what I'm trying to say at this point is, AkwaIbom does not lack shortage of what it takes to employ the people. As far as building the industry around first the foundations of it, does AkwaIbom right now doesn't have it. We're building without the foundations. We don't have light, we don't have water, we don't have internet. Or if we have internet, it's some outside company where we could supply our own. So a lot of these things, we should go back and make the foundation solid, then we build on the foundation. You see? Now, that is one of the ways we can create employment too. Another way we can create employment too is we have to also begin to think in line of how does the developed countries think as far as employment is concerned? How do they see things?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, government is the star of everything, which is a disaster. Government shouldn't be, and when I say these things, I'm going to put in a disclaimer. I don't have a problem with government because that is how I've been interpreted whenever I speak. I don't have problems with government. I love government. I love His Excellency and everybody in there. That's why I speak about the area. But government cannot be the star of everything.
Okay. You mean that we should encourage privatization and performance by individuals? They should go into industrialization and employ many people. Mr. Franklin, you represent CLOs. You represent a CLO in AkwaIbom, and then you go around the state looking at the complexes, the industries that have been built. Do you notice participation of the private sector in industrialization and in putting on some of those projects that Clayton has enumerated? Have you seen anybody do something like that? And if yes, how has the state supported those individuals?
Let me start by commending my friend Clayton. Even though he's not in AkwaIbom, he has been able to marshal out a very good foundation for this conversation. Talking about Obom Otab. Yeah. So it means that he's abreast. He talked about Obom Otab, bringing in a very fine, fantastic blueprint and masterpiece for the state. Of course, I agree with him. After Obom Otab left, Godswill Akpabio came and brought in accessibility. Of course, I agree with him. And then now we are talking about trying to industrialize the state by the governor, Udo Emmanuel. Also agree with him. Now, on the whole, what I want to say in summary of these three administrations is that what we have had on ground is wrong priorities.
Wrong priorities.
They try to politicize, yes, wrong priorities, and then they try to politicize projects. and they don't create enabling environment. These are the three response I want to give to my friend Clayton. Of course, these three leaders have made their efforts to transform the state, to create enabling environment, to make the state be seen and be noted among the committee of states in the country. But truth is, most of their projects are wrongly timed. I can name over 30 projects that today have become moribund in the state, and billions have been wasted on those projects.
That's right.
I can just name them. I can name them on the fingertips. I can name them.
Name them.
Now,
Name them.
Good. You want to shake table?
No,
you will shake
table. I'm really trying to understand where the unemployment is coming from. Name them, please.
Okay. Now, the government. Let's start with Obongota. Obongota came on board and brought in what we call Ibakadi Seaport. That project up till now is still ongoing. 12 years after, we've not been able to take off from the ground. Obongota came up and brought what we call the AkwaIbom Science Park.
Yes.
That project till now has not been taken off. Obongota came on board and brought in the Le Meridian today has been changed and refocused from what Obongota had on ground to now become AkwaIbom Hotels and Golf Resort. It's no longer Le Meridian. Obongota also brought the AkwaIbom State Refinery, the AkwaIbom Power Plant, and all these projects. Today, the AkwaIbom Power Plant that is functioning is not functioning and is not giving us maximum result as what would have been expected. After Obongota left, and all other projects that he also put on ground, of course, he brought the Victor Atas airport and was trying to build the MRO, sector of that plant of the airport. But up till now, that is still ongoing. It has not been, taken to conclusion.
Why?
Now
Why?
we move from there to Godswill, Uboda Pabio's government. He came on board, and we talked about several other projects like the e-library. For example, Mr. Close talked about the internet. We had the e-libraries that was built with over 100 billions of naira of the state, and today the only thing working there is Jambite, who go sit there and write jam. I mean, and review their studies. And if you want to have maybe a birthday party, you could go and hire the hall.
We went to the state and we went to that library, and then he had like things that will power it. We saw those machines that powered it because there was no power. They had to get power from a certain, and we saw tons of computers. We saw people using the library. You want to tell me that was a setup for us to see?
I will wish I will wish my host allowed me, a journalist of long standing in the state, and I comment on this on public radio every now and then. I write about it. I have written more than 30 pieces on this particular issues. So I am on ground, and I speak to you as a journalist, not as a Franklin. Is a song now. So I'm telling you that you can simply use you can simply go walk in there and pay money to the Ministry of Science and Tech and use the hall. The only thing working there is the hall. You can use the hall to do your birthday party, to do your whatever function you have. I have done one myself. That project is just there. Now, the street lighting that is within the compound of that AkwaIbom e-library has fallen. The Jambite most times sit on those fallen street lightings, and they are just there. Now, the way it was even built, it was built with the mindset of having 24 power supply. So, because there is no enough ventilation, I have been there myself. I've even raised this issue with authority of the state that place it has some defect, that it was built without enough ventilation, and so there must be constant power supply. But you need to go and put fuel the diesel to be able to use the hall or use the facility. Now we moved from there to the what is it called again? The cinema center. What do I call it? How do we call it again? We have a cinema hall here called Tropicana. I call it cinema because the only thing happening there is children who go there to watch movies. That's just that. And these days we can watch movies through our phones. Who goes there again? Who goes there? And over hundreds of billions of naira have been spent on that project. Now again, we move from there. There should have been a shopping mall. It is no longer. We were told that the equipment, facilities for it are there, but they have been vandalized because they've not been installed. We talked about the 4-point by Sheraton that even brought controversy between the current government and the past government. It has not been completely, put to use. If not for the fact that God actually helped AkwaIbom State, what is it called? The Ibom Specialty Hospital would have also suffered the same fate. So what I'm trying to say here is that the government that we have had and we have don't prioritize projects. They just bring in projects and they build. For example, talk about the current government of Udo Emmanuel. He came on board and want to build a church, call it worship center, 10,000 worship center, 10,000 sitters worship center, and we all protested against it. Today that the COVID-19 has made churches not to even function in full capacity. What happens to the church? So I am saying that the government we have had, our leaders do not prioritize projects. They seem to politicize projects. They seem to want to make name to say, I built this, I built that, but not what the people actually wanted. Now back to your question of how do the people of the state key into the government programs.
Yes.
The government do not create government has not been able to create enabling environment to accommodate the private sector. I am a private sector person. I am an entrepreneur. I have my company as a publisher. I'm also a farmer. Do I have the enabling environment to operate in AkwaIbom State? The answer is no. The reason is because I am seen as someone who holds independent opinion of what the government may think. And so they see me as somebody who is not in the political circle because I am not a party person. So that is so you must be a party person. You must have played a role in bringing in the government before you are given the platform to excel in your business.
Okay.
So these are the issues. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Franklin. Thank you so much. I would have expected that, because you mentioned some solid projects. And if we had worked on these projects, if successive governments had come to carry these projects to completion, they would have offered great avenues for massive employment of the people.
Yes, unemployment, yes.
But it seems like there is antagonism. There is, one governor is fighting the previous one and not wanting to complete the work of the previous one. This amounts to nothing else but a failure in leadership. Mr. Clayton, could you make a few comments on that issue?
Well, I think that, and it's something that I've sat down before and I thought about it while driving and I missed my exit. I'm just driving and think about it. I think one thing we have to get our people to understand is that government is a cumulative effort. It's cumulative in nature. The idea, because what I've seen, the governors are being reduced to, governors are now project managers, really. They've been reduced to being project managers. They lack things like the maintenance culture. So therefore, and I'll say this for the record, I will mention names. So therefore, His Excellency, God's will Akpabio may not really be interested in projects that were done by His Excellency Victor Atta to maintain it. And then, and then you would see maybe His Excellency Governor Dom Emmanuel may want to ignore projects or not really be interested because he's in a race to also build what he would say he built. However, the problem, what is really the load of being a leader is you are building what you want to build for your legacy, plus you're maintaining those that were already built. That is really the load of a leader. So the load is very cumbersome. That's why sometimes I tell people I wouldn't want to be a leader if you do it the right way. Because it's also what should keep you awake at night would be all these other projects that my brother Franklin Song has mentioned that are going into disrepair, but at the same time, you're building whatever you want to build. So that is one of the maintenance culture. We don't have it. We really don't have it. If I come into power and I'm a little bit upset that it looks like that stadium was a bit too magnanimous, and I'll just ignore it. Magnificent, so I just ignore it, and then it goes into this, and then I'd say, and then I try to see if it could go down completely and build a brand new one that is bigger than that one. We can't continue like that because America was not built in one day. Rome was not built in a day. You see, it's a cumulative effect of everything. And I want to also mention too that in a situation where we are doing a pseudo-democratic process is that it looks like democracy,
but
but
it's not.
it's not entirely democracy. The executive shouldn't be this powerful. The legislature sometimes is more powerful than the executive. In fact, they are very, very powerful. And so I would have expected the legislature to start asking these questions. Like, for example, I asked yesterday in a forum Miami, what happened to Ibom Power Plant? And there was ominous silence. Well, so there was this ominous silence about it. I just asked, it just popped up and I put it in the forum and everybody was, and it's a very big forum. So I would advise that we have a situation where we could have a legislature that could write a bill and say, why don't we have 24/7 electricity now? Now, I've heard the other argument, and the other argument has been the Feds won't let you. The Feds didn't. I've heard this political story of what the Feds did with the Ibom Power Plant. But I think the Feds prevailed because we don't have the same force that other big tribes have, which we need to begin to adapt. The Yorubas, if they built a power plant, you're not going to interfere with it. There's going to be problems. There's going to be a lot of unrest. They're going to bring their full power to bear. I used to start to think in my mind, and maybe my brother Franklin Isong can correct me, that if the whole of AkwaIbom State stood united and said, you will not mess up with our power plant, what would happen? If the governor stood, his family, all members of the House of Assembly, all chairmen, the whole state stood and pointed at the Feds and said, we need this light, stay out of it, what would happen? But we've always seen the leaders sacrifice the good of all for personal interests sometimes. And so suddenly it seems as if the Feds were so powerful that they wouldn't let us have light. You see, which is just strange to hear. Strange politics.
Yes.
So, Mr. Franklin, my host, I'll hand over the mic back to you and say, how do we solve these kinds of problems?
Yes, I have a couple of answer to your why. The first answer I want to profile is if we depoliticize project, if we don't attach project to each government, you say this is Governor Godswill Akpabio's project. But if it is AkwaIbom project, and we have enabling law from the legislature that says every government that come in place must continue from what has been put in place by the past government, because it was done with the taxpayers' money.
Exactly.
That will be able to force on or enforce on the government in power to implement the policies and programs of the past government. Now, what we do, fortunately for AkwaIbom, one political party has been in power for the past 21 years of democracy in the state, and that is the PDP. But unfortunately for us, the leaders who have emerged from the same party seem to be disunited, and so you will see them try to dehumanize the persons of the past government. I say this guidedly because I have written several articles saying that we should not be be at war at ourselves at all time. What is happening today? If we have a minister, for example, from AkwaIbom State,
yes,
you will see that we are the ones that are pulling him down. We have somebody from the state going to represent us at the federal level who will be here, be throwing stones, dragging the person down.
Yes.
So this war will continue. We will never find where you see all our leaders coming to unite together, and that takes us back to these popular sayings by Professor Ayandele of the former Cross River State University that says that we are like an atomistic society, perpetually at war against ourselves. So when any government come in place, he tried to destroy what has been built by the past government without minding that the taxpayers' monies had been used in those projects. Now, when that is removed, if we remove politics, remove political power play, and then we face business of governance, you will see that we will get it right. Secondly, and very importantly,
yes. Go ahead.
We are operating a representative democracy. Democracy where people are elected to go and represent us at various levels as governor, as constituents. If the governors hold town hall meeting and ask us, what do we want? And we tell him, we don't need this project, we need this. it becomes the people's project when it is being built. And so you can see a lot of street lights in New York fallen, or the bulbs are stolen because the citizens themselves refuse to protect it, because perhaps they don't see the need for that. But if the government come to to engage with the community leaders and say, what do your community want? We might need health facility. The next community might need school blocks. And so this is what is supposed to be done. When you now begin to prioritize project and you reduce the level of politics. Now, what you see in Akwa Ibom, if a governor built a project, any project, and it is completed, you will see his picture. His photograph will be built on that project. So you will see his statue will be mounted on the project. So that is his own project. Now, if he goes, another government come on board, he dismantle that billboard, and that project is gone, because that project was the governor's project. It wasn't the people's project. So we should try to play less of politics and focus more on governance and carry your constituents along. That's what I think will be the answer to your question.
Brilliant, brilliant. But are we just shooting in the wind? Because it does not seem like it is practical. If we see the kind of the kind of friction between the present governor and the former governor, there's so much friction, and then there is a divide in the middle. I am for Governor Dome. I am an Akwa person. There is no peace in between. Now, is there a way? Yes. The only practical solution would be to show some semblance of peace between all these leaders, and have these leaders encourage their followers or their supporters to make peace, because the only way we can move ahead is by uniting and focusing on the business of the people as the people's project, like you have suggested. If we do not do that, I don't think there'll be any peace. I was on your platform, Mr. Franklin, and oh my God, the kind of friction on that platform between...
Even Clayton was there.
Oh, I have to take a break. I am still on sabbatical from that platform. I had to take a break because it was very, full of friction. You want to say something, Clayton?
Yes, I want to say something.
Okay,
and I wanted to say, and thank you, my host, and I'm sorry for interjecting.
So please go ahead.
Yes. I want to say something which people don't want to talk about. And I've seen it, and I've seen this thing. It is crippling. It is crippling. And I think it arises from a pre-colonial situation we had. The pre-colonial situation we've had was, and I wrote an article about this, and it exploded in the forum I was in, where I said that when the British came and ruled over us, they pitched us against each other. But this is not something they did in their own society. So what I mean by pitching is, for example, classical, just a very small classical, and I'll be very quick about it. They'll say, at the end of your school term, first semester, you say, this one was first out of 39, you'll be happy. The kid who was 37 out of 39 in the class got beaten to pulp by his dad. Now, in that world, it brought this unhealthy competition. Think about the kid who had 37 out of 39, who could have had skills, but they may not have the kind of skills of education per se. He could be more handy than that. But he has this natural unhealthy competition spirit in him that builds up in him, and he envies and he's angry and he's jealous about certain things. We have that kind of competition in the society. And the competition is very unhealthy, because when you look at the developed societies, what they did to themselves, they didn't pitch themselves by saying you're first, second, or third. They only said you need improvement on this subject or that subject or this thing. So you could, back home, you heard parents bragging, my kid was first. While overseas, you hear parents bragging, my kid had straight A's. So it's more of, it's not about pitching them out against somebody. It's more about improvement of the child per se. Now that we grew up in that kind of an atmosphere where it was just about that kind of a thing. That's one thing that is very unhealthy, the competition, when we should understand that we're all in the same boat, and if we rise together, we fall together. Another thing, the second thing that is mixed with that has produced the most toxic thing we've ever known is competition plus tribalism. Competition plus tribalism has produced the most toxic, and we have a lot of closet tribalists.
I'll get him back. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a lot of closet tribalists. I don't know. I've not yet read enough literature, so I won't say I'm an expert on it, on why people stick to it so badly. Like, people are like, they really stick to it. They hold on to their guns when it comes to the tribalistic part. People wonder, why am I? Is it like I don't know myself? No, it's not like I don't know myself, but my dad is Anang, my mom is Ibibio. So I can't really,
Me too.
yeah. But, I mean, I can't, so my reasoning is that I can't really stick to, saying one side needs to die and one other side needs to live kind of ideologies in my mind. So as a hybrid, I want equal rights for everybody. I think that one thing crippling AkwaIbom State is the tribalistic politics. It's just and you see, here's the thing that is sad about that. If we are sticking to a quota system, all these tribes will come back into power again sometime in the future. So we cannot be in the vicious cycle of we are unhappy about what this other guy did because another Anang governor is coming. Another governor from Eket Senatorial District will be coming. Another governor from Uyo Senatorial. So it doesn't mean we're going to be going this vicious cycle, you see? So we have to figure out how to keep these things aside for the sake of the state,
All right.
And I'll hand over the mic. I'll hand over the mic to whoever will speak on this issue too.
All right. Thank you so much, Clayton. You always come with very bright ideas. And thank you, Mr. Franklin, for pointing those things out, especially with the projects and suggesting that, new government should build successively on the projects that were done by the previous governments. Why do you keep going off, Mr. Franklin? I think you have seen my paper and you know that I'm coming to ask you about NDDC and its effect on the economy of AkwaIbom State. What happened? Clayton, do you want to comment on that while I try to find Mr. Franklin?
Yeah, I wish Mr. Franklin could come on to talk about it, but I'll talk about it based on the little that I do know.
Okay, I found it.
The NDDC, I think, Mr. Franklin.
Yes, I'm back. Can I just say something before we move to the NDDC?
Yeah,
I think I heard you mention it. But yes, yeah, Mr. Clayton, let me thank you for trying to preempt my thoughts. I was trying to propose that I have even written on it that to add to what I said much earlier, that we need to restructure our constitution. And then
Mr. Franklin,
remove the dominant party. Can you hear me? Yes.
We can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. When we remove the dominance role we give to political parties, and then we allow Nigerians to, on their own, walk up to INEC office, pick up your form, and contest. At that point, the people of the state will rally around you, and then you emerge. It will remove the power of godfatherism. Will be removed. The political party influence will be removed, and then you will see yourself as emerging from the people, no longer the political party. What we have on ground now is where a few cabal of party will sit somewhere and bring you up and flown you as a candidate and give you to INEC, and INEC put your name up for election, and you are elected, and then you become the governor of the state. You no longer pass through the people because you owe your party, loyalty. You don't owe the people of the state loyalty. So if we remove the role of political party and make it open to everyone to go in, that will also help in reducing this restiveness that we have, and the fighting will reduce.
All right.
Talked about the issue of zoning. Initially, when the 1919 politics started, I supported zoning. I was for zoning because I thought that was the best option for the state. That when we begin to share power among the 3 senatorial districts, that it will bring growth, it will bring development. Obangota's government did very well on zoning. He did not try to tribalize or bring in nepotism or segment project. He spread project across the 3 senatorial districts. I mentioned the Le Meridian, which is in Uyo. Am I still live? Hello?
I think we're still live.
I mentioned the Le Meridian project, which is in Urban. I mentioned the airport project, which is also in Urban and Seletai and Okobo. I mentioned the science park, which is in Uyo. I mentioned the refinery project, which is in Ilikarabasi, the bomb power plant. Ikarabasi, the Deep Sea Port, which is in Mbo. All this we have spread across the 3 senatorial districts. It wasn't narrowed to a particular senatorial district nor local government area. After Obongota left office, what we now had was when a person emerges, he play ethnic politics, he tried to centralize project to his own domain.
Oh dear.
Obongota did not do road to his own local government area in Ibesikpo. The Aka no road was done by Godswill Akpabio's government, which led to Obongota's LGA. It shows you how open he was. So after that, we have now begun to see that zoning, for me and in my thought, has not paid us well. Because after Obongota left office, what we now have is those who emerge through zoning see it as our own turn. This is our own turn. We must do it our own way. And so we try to narrow employment, narrow appointment, narrow project to one particular area instead of spreading it across the state. So I think that zoning should be downplayed in the future elections. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Right.
Yes, I wanted to say a point of correction. I will put in that I think that also His Excellency Godswill Akpabio did a good job in making sure that because he had the power, knowing his immense popularity, he could have made everything to be in Ikorekbene or Isinudim. He didn't do that. He did not do that. The airport is far away from where he comes from. The stadium is far away. He had the power. He could have made the stadium everything to be in his area, but he made the stadium to be in Uyo. He made Le Meridian to be in Uyo. He made the airport to be way out there. A lot of the projects were just way out there. I could say without, and I might say this, and I know it may sound interesting, that maybe only the four-point Sheraton is what is there in Ikorekbene, as the case may be. So like even the Ibom Hospital was built in Uyo. Everything, he built it out of his area. I really don't know, and I'm not going to say anything about His Excellency Udom Emmanuel Udom. I really don't know Udom Emmanuel. Sorry, I really don't know how much he's also spread things out that way. I really don't know. Franklin, you would correct me on that. However, I would say this for the record too. I think zoning is okay, and I stand corrected, because if you look at the way people are voting, the voting process, certain senatorial districts would never make it to become governor. That was the argument originally for the issue of zoning or this quota system. And I don't know if our people are yet developed enough to really sit down and say we're voting individuals and not party when we're voting individuals. Because I know, like, for example, what's about to happen here in the United States in November is going to be about individuals. It's as bad as that. People are not really going to stick to party. It's going to really be about who do you like at this point. Nobody cares whether it's Democrat or Republicans, because it's bad. It's bad enough as it is. So if we could get, I think maybe with enough information to the grassroots, we could begin to tell the grassroots, bring who you believe, not party. I think the party has become an instrument of being used to punish each other. It's no more. And you see, here's another thing too I'll put there, and I'll hand over the mic. Party should be important for just elections. After that, party should cease. So party should be, it brings in, and that's how parties work in developed countries. It is the mechanism and the substrate to bring in the candidates into power. After that, the president is the president of all. The senator is the senator for the whole district, irrespective of which party you are. Everybody, governor is the governor of all. We need, and this is where I think the party has gotten out of control. Either AkwaIbom or something else. It's turned into like a cult kind of a thing, where even after elections, they have incredible power, which it shouldn't be the case. So I hand it over to you.
Before our hosts come on board, let me add to what you have just said. The drafters of our constitution actually intended that the political party should be the vehicle to bring in our leaders into offices, and after which the parties should be flown at half-mast. But what we are having today is the reverse. Our democracy has not been that developed like the civilized world, like in the US, for example, where they are going to vote for persons, not political party. Here in Nigeria, people still play political party, and parties still play a larger interest, and parties still continue to dominate and rule over governance. Now you could see where, for example, if a governor is, doing what is wrong, and somebody like me, somebody like Clayton, come to advise and say this is not right, instead of the government to speak, you will hear the party will speak for the government, coming up to defend the government, that this is our own, this is our government, we must protect the government, and they will speak against whoever is coming to advise or speak against what is done wrongly. So this is the point. And again, appointment, job consideration, favors come from political party that is in power. So if you must have any contract, I just gave you an instance of myself. I am a non-partisan person. I belong to no political party, and I hold my opinion independently, and that has kept me where I am today. That I am not seen among the big boys in town, because my views are always neutral from what the parties will expect, from what the government will expect. Even what I'm saying to you right now, if it is pushed out to the state, they will come and make a rejoinder. The party will react and say it's not true that I was trying to blackmail the state. So this is the point. So whatever you speak against the wrongdoings of the government, instead of the government machinery to speak, the party will come and speak on their behalf. It's done so in the state, it's done so both at the federal level. So the party still dominates. You want a contract, go to the party, pass through the party chairman to get the government and get a contract. So this is what is being played here, which I think is wrong. Now, to the issue of elections, to the issue of elections, the only way that we will be able to get it done rightly is if we remove godfatherism. And then we allow merit, like Clayton talked about. Let the grassroots people come and choose. That is to say, you open up the space. Let everybody go out and campaign, canvass, hold town hall meetings, go to debate, sell your manifesto, tell us what you have. Don't be imposed from Abuja. Don't be imposed from party. Come and tell Franklin what you have. Go to US, meet the diasporans, tell them what you have. Sell your ideas to them. When at the end of the day, we find you competent, we vote for you, you are the people's governor, not the political party's governor.
Okay. All right.
So I want to rest.
Thank you. I have a few questions here. A few questions and comments. Somebody says, Michael Ilekubo says, the discussion should not only be centered on one particular state, but Nigeria. Okay, Michael, we will do Nigeria. We have been doing Nigeria in previous conversations. Today, we wanted to showcase AkwaIbom, especially as we are all from AkwaIbom, and we did not remember to greet the people. AkwaIbom is song. Yeah. Okay.
It's right. Ghana.
All right. Ata Kide says to ask you all about patriotism. Are we patriotic in AkwaIbom State? Do we have an allegiance to Nigeria, or do we have allegiance to a personal commitment? Is the governor patriotic to Nigeria? Who can speak on that? And then there is Juliana. Juliana God's Power says, and the people and government should have maintenance culture, taking ownership of the projects, like Franklin said. Okay, and there is need to have a change of mindset in our country. Let's take ownership of our land, politicians, knowing that he is there for the good of people, not just himself. And there's a lot of abandoned projects, lack of continuity, greed and self-aggrandizement, lack of ownership, and lack of communal love. All these things have been reflected in your conversations, and thank you for so much. Ata also says corruption and nepotism is not Nigeria's problem. It is the absolute absence of patriotism in us. Ata is very big on patriotism. Can we speak on that?
I'd like to speak on that. Can I speak on that?
Go ahead, Clayton.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, we have to be very careful about the word patriotism.
Yes.
For those who are not well read, and Ata is my brother. Ata is hi Ata. I'm glad you're watching the show. For those of us who are not well read,
well done.
Yes, Ata is he's a great person. He's an amazing person.
Yeah.
For those of us who are not well read, when you're not well read, in fact, there's a poem about that in theology. It's called "Little Learning is Madness." For those of us who are not well read, certain concepts are heavily abused. One of the concepts, and we've seen it. We've seen patriotism abused. We've seen feminism abused. Those who think they're feminists just because they have they think that, but they've not read a single book on feminism. So we've seen all these things. People who think they are true leaders, but they've never read a book on leadership before. They have no education on leadership. They just go in and wing it. One of the problems we have about patriotism is we have to draw a fine line between patriotism and fascism. The two, we have to draw a fine line between patriotism and fascism. Now, sometimes I would like to throw that question back to Atta. What do you feel? Because there's patriotism on the level of what we hear in our ancient literature, like that of Brutus, who said, for the good of Rome, we can take out Caesar. Now, if you go into the history of what Caesar was, Brutus was justified. Caesar wasn't just, I mean, on the Platonic level, it says Caesar was a very highly influential man and he developed Rome and so on and so forth. But on the underground level, senators were being beaten down on the streets if they didn't pass the laws he wanted. Things happened. And Brutus stepped in and said, for the good of Rome. That was a language he used. So there's patriotism, like the patriotism where we do what the governor says. We do what civil society requires of us. But there's also patriotism of you love the place so much that the French Revolution happens and you execute the king because he's out of line totally. He's way out of line and he's taking the society on a really bad path. In fact, King Louis XV, him and his wife, Maria Antoinette, went down to the guillotine. Now, I know people who will get up and say, and this is where the state has to separate itself from religion. They will say, all authority comes from God. Well, we've seen authority that can cause great damage because one thing we forget is that what authority does lasts through generations. And wealth is accumulated through generations, not by one man, like we're doing in Africa. One man tries to steal as much as he can and becomes wealthy. Here, as we've learned, it's accumulated. You quietly gather it through generations and you become wealthy. So when we talk about patriotism, we have to talk about what is good for the land, not necessarily what's good for the leaders. Okay. Now, the leaders are leading us. We have to make that job easy by giving them all the cooperation and help and obedience we can. But where the leaders are doing wrong, blind patriotism now turns to fascism. Yeah. And fascism is where the leader says, everybody put your hand in fire. We all put our hand and sing national anthem while doing it. Or, you know, it becomes a situation where it's now the sheep herd mentality. No matter, it doesn't matter if he's taking you down into a cliff, you all go because he's the leader. So let's be careful how we define patriotism. Okay. You see, that's the thing I would tell Atta. And I've seen cases where, for example, now, I can bet you there was a time when, if we didn't know what we know now, the NDDC guy would come and say, oh, honorable, the chairman, we bow our heads and we give him, you know, whatever respect we have to give him. Until now, the numbers have come out and the question now arises, do you still feel the same way about him? And do you think we should bring the full force of the law on him? You see? Now, patriotic would be, well, he's our own thief. And you have to be careful because he's honorable. No, I don't see it from that point of view. So what am I trying to say is, let's be careful how we, there has to be checks and balances is what I'm trying to say for our leaders, irrespective of how much you love the land. You see, that is what I'm trying to say to Atta. Atta doesn't believe in even the checks and balances at some point. He just feels, you know, you just go along with it.
Mr. Franklin, can you talk about if you have any comments to make on patriotism, go ahead. If not, can we start talking about NDDC and the impact of what has happened on the communities of AkwaIbom State?
Yes. I will just add a word to what Clayton just said. For me, what we see here in AkwaIbom is loyalty, more of loyalty to individuals. Patriotism is not is not in our books here. Hello, am I still live?
Yes, you are.
Yes. So patriotism doesn't exist in AkwaIbom. We are only loyal to who assisted us to get into office, and that is just it. So it becomes in conflict with patriotism. Loyalty becomes in conflict with patriotism, where one will ordinarily want to serve the state, but because of his loyalty to his godfather, his loyalty to the power that be, he would deviate and do things that will suit his, his godfathers or his party. So the word patriotism doesn't exist in AkwaIbom, and even in Nigeria context, it doesn't exist at the larger extent. Now, back to the question you throw at me on the NDDC. This is an unfortunate situation. Unfortunate because I am one of the activists and journalists that canvassed and advocated for the creation of NDDC. I recall in 1992, we had made several advocacies that we needed a commission to address our issues. I used to be with late Harold Dapabriye in River State, is late now, and then the Edwin Clark from Warri, late Margaret Ekpo. All of us, we used to have a group called South People's Conference. We came up as people of the South region who have been marginalized over time and begin to advocate for a commission that will take care of us. Don't forget that in 1957, late Chief Harold Dapabriye led a team to the London and met with our colonial masters and advocated for the same right of minorities that we needed. Sorry, you see the issue. Power has gone.
Yes.
So, yeah, we saw it.
You can imagine. You can imagine that. Now, that visit led to. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, but you're a little bit broken. But
that visit led to the creation of Niger Delta Board, which gave right to some development in the region. But the board also was politicized. The board was politicized by our leaders, by the then Eastern leaders, and then it was later scrapped. And then we now had, in 1992, 93, we now had the UMPADEC coming on stream. Now, UMPADEC came on stream and also was politicized. It became over-politicized such that it wasn't giving us the needed development. And so in 2000, after a lot of advocacy, a lot of entreaties we made to the president, then Olusegun Obasanjo, he came up with the Establishment Act in 2000 and created the NDDC, which gave right to what we have today.
Okay.
The act itself was politicized because the act simply said any state that has oil will be a member of the commission. So automatically, if there is oil today found in Zamfara State, Zamfara will have somebody in the commission, and in the future, the person could become the MD and the chairman of the commission. Whereas the intention of the government, of what we wanted, was a board that will address the Niger Delta issue. But today, today it is opened. That's why you have 9 oil-producing communities, states. You have the Ondo as part of it, because there is oil in Ondo, there is oil in Imo, there is oil in Abia State. So they are part of the commission. So these are the issues. Now, what we are having today, we've not gotten any development in AkwaIbom to show that we are actually amongst the top oil-producing states in the Niger Delta region. Unfortunately for us, we had MD in AkwaIbom from AkwaIbom State in the presence of His Excellency Obong Sima-Ekere, but you could see what happened throughout his tenure was much of mudslinging, much of fight, much of crisis from the parties, from the state. At a point, NDC will do a project in the state, government will go and hold the project. Government will do a project in the state, NDC will go. So you have those issues that conflict on the activities of NDC. Now, back to the issue of Senator Godswill Akpabio being the chairman, being the minister of Data Affairs, president from the office of the secretary to the federal government, making it from it was before now, it was in the office of the presidency, but oversighted by the secretary to the federal government. That was now removed in 2019 by President Buhari and put it in the Niger Delta Ministry, which was created by President Yar'Adua. Now, Akpabio had become the minister, and I would have thought that what we need in the commission is a board. We don't need an interim management committee because the act establishing the commission did not in any way make room for anything like an interim committee. So the mistake that was made at first was for the president to say, let's have an interim management committee, and also forwarded names of the board members to Senate, which was cleared. But unfortunately, it was put on hold because of the forensic audit, which is ongoing. Of course, there are issues of corruption. Of course, there are issues of misappropriation of funds of the region. But we don't have a board that ought to be, in place to oversee the project. What the IMC have done, which I am against, is that they are supposed to oversee the forensic audit, but they went above that to involve in contract, to involve in project, and even had to award palliatives to themselves, which which is completely unheard of. So this is the point. There are several issues on it, but let me just let it, because my friend Clayton will have much to say about it. Sorry for the light that went off and all that.
The NDDC was formed with a brilliant, idea to serve the south of the Niger Delta region. Area. But do you think that it has served its purpose? Over the years, all we have seen in this, group is rancor, fighting, embezzlement, and all that. Has it met its purpose? If it has not met its purpose, if it has only resulted in, more trouble for the region, is there any need to continue with it the way it is? Or what do you say, Clayton? Should it continue, or should it be reformed, or should it even be scrapped? Consider the impact of scrapping it, the impact of that on the economic well-being of the Niger Delta region. What do we do? How can we make this thing work for us? Because the idea of it is beautiful, but so far it has not been working. What do we do?
Yeah, number one, I think that technically, like we always say, and that has always been the case, when you see a problem, it's a law that was failed, to be implemented, or there was some laws that, were overlooked or something. I think there was too much involvement of certain characters that became a conflict of interest to the NDDC. What the kind of revelations we're hearing now, members of the Senate, members of the House of Representatives, we're hearing all kinds of things. It should have been that the administration of the projects themselves went now to the private sector. People bid for these things and get it. And then all third parties or even direct parties associated with any person in government should not have had any hand with whatever projects are concerned. That's one problem. Another problem that we're seeing here was the actual regulatory bodies that should regulate this thing, like for example, these forensic audits or whatever they want to call them, and all these things should have been privatized. The idea of that we had to wait for so many years to really know what's going on in there, it means it became a cave. This cave where you go in and you see a lot of gold and you get as much as you can and then you get out. It turned into a cave, a secret cave. And if the idea, because when you go into high technology, the idea of forensic audit shouldn't exist. It should have been something that is happening yearly. A thorough audit should have been happening yearly. A thorough audit, not a forensic. So a forensic means that pretty much this place was in darkness for a long time. So we cannot have that. Now, the other aspect that we're having as a problem too is communication between these kind of bodies and states. I think, for example, my brother Franklin was trying to point out that when Nsima Akpabio now became someone that was in that body, he had problems with the state government, which shouldn't be the case, especially if he's trying to bring,
which is such a
which is when he's trying to bring development in. So I think there's a lot of things there we are seeing, which the legislature needs to pick up quickly.
Yes.
Anytime you see a problem, it's the legislature that now picks it up, creates a bill that covers that loophole, and it never happens again. Now, that is one thing. That's one thing. Now, my host asked a very big question. It's really the biggest question of all now at this point. Is it even worth it? Do we keep it? Or do we just say, okay, we disband it, all monies go to the states and governors control the money, and we know where that story goes too. So the situation here is we have to see, I feel, personally, it's just a personal opinion, that there has to be some kind of a body that can work in this way, just like the NDDC worked. But maybe we have to make a body that would be much more fragmented, not a big structure like the NDC, maybe more fragmented to handle 3 states at a time. So one body handles 3 states at a time, another body handles like what would happen here in the United States, another body handles 3 states at a time, not one body handling so many states at a time. Knowing how we tend to, all of a sudden the guy in Rivers State doesn't agree with the guy in AkwaIbom State, and the guy in AkwaIbom State doesn't agree with the guy in Ebonyi State, and the guy from Ondo doesn't want to have anything to do with any of you at all. Knowing how we are, they should maybe fragment it into regional, bodies like that would handle smaller chunks, and maybe we could see how that would play out. And so then the money would be disbursed and broken down into more smaller amounts that can be handled by smaller regions. Thereby, and that's an American system of doing things where if the problem is big, you break it into smaller chunks, so that's a way we could do it. Another thing we need to do, I think, and I want to talk about that with my brother Franklin and my host, is how do we simplify things?
Yes.
We bring things down from these complex arguments and just bring it into the simple, what's the problem? What's the solution? And instead of us, because whenever we want to, as Nigerians want to go into the problem, we start from history. We go into so much history, and the history is so convoluted, very, very convoluted. So how do we get into a situation where we just do like we do here? We come in a meeting, what's the problem? What's the solution? We fix it, we move on. Because I've also seen a situation where we linger on the history, and then it brings up so many characters that need to be blamed for mistakes they made along the way. And really, those characters are no more relevant.
Yes.
Really, honestly, they're no more relevant. It's in the past, it's in the past. So the NDDC can be broken into smaller chunks and made to handle smaller sizes of states.
Yes.
And then we try it all over again. Than it having this big body where if you go in there, you become king. In fact, you have a big church celebration that you made it into the NDDC and all. We need to break it down and then see how it would work from there. We could try that experiment. It's just a personal opinion.
Okay.
Okay. Can I just come in here, my host? Can I just come in and chip in something before you take it from there? Yes, I agree with Mr. Clayton that we don't need to bring in history, but sometimes this history helps us to build a foundation and knowing where we're coming from and where we are going to, so that we don't repeat history or repeat past mistakes. Now, moving forward from there, I would have thought that we have people who are not politicians man the NDDC. What we see, the same issue that we are discussing, the issue of patriotism, the issue of loyalty, still plays out in the NDDC. It's a political party's business. Now, when His Excellency Obong Ikere was in the NDDC as MD, he's from AkwaIbom State. The governor of AkwaIbom State and him never agrees because of political party differences. Now, the party at the center appoints people to NDDC because it is like a winner takes it all. The president appoints. And the president, so whoever that is in the NDDC from the state is always perceived to be somebody from the other party. Instead of seeing him as our own, he is being seen as from the other party. And so the person too will see himself as somebody who comes to represent the interests of his party. And so you will keep on having this conflict, so that when the governor speaks, you will hear the person from the NDDC speaking differently. Because he sees the governor's opinion to be that of the governor's party's opinion. This is what has led us to where we are today in AkwaIbom. Otherwise, we would have utilized the chance that we had in Sima Ikere's NDDC
better to
transform the state. I give you an instance. I have said this over and over on radio. I've mentioned this point on radio. Now, the corruption that is eating deep, in NDDC, didn't just start today. It's been there for the past 19 years of the commission. It's been there. The truth is that, for example, I take instance in Ibno. There's a project going on in Ibno, which I have raised severally. I've said this on radio. I've even written a petition against it. It is a bridge that takes us to nowhere. It's called, I choose to call it the bridge of nowhere. Now that bridge, at the inception of the NDDC, it was budgeted 3 billion. As we speak today, that bridge has been allocated over 16 billion. it goes to nowhere. That is corruption for you. So each year they keep recycling that particular bridge, and it does nothing moves, nothing goes, but monies are appropriated.
Starters, where was it supposed to lead to?
Nowhere. It takes us to nowhere. It's just a bridge that would have maybe link up to it have linked to some communities. But from the day it was started from now till now, it is still where it stands. No movement.
Okay. Have we seen how disunity has robbed the state
that is one. Now, how do we the NDDC and our development? Yes. Now how do we move forward from here? Two things. I agree with Mr. Clayton that we need to how do I put it now? We need to decentralize the NDDC and make it a little bit smaller. But the truth is, looking at the law establishing NDDC, it still makes the president the final authority when it comes to appointment. So when the president appoints and the president is in party A, the governor of the state that is also by the act establishing NDDC, I think section 6 of the NDDC Act says that the 9 governors in the 9 oil producing states are members of the advisory council of NDDC. They ought to be advising the board. Now, unfortunately for NDDC today, 6 of the 9 governors are of the other party, PDP. So you can now see that when they advise the board that is now, I call it quote and unquote APC board, they will see it as this is not what my party would want. So they will turn down the advice, no matter how genuine it is, from the governors. So you have this conflict happening. Again, why is it that anybody that is appointed to NDDC will come out and want to seek to become governor of the state? It is because there is much money in NDDC, and so the people are only trying to seek for their personal interest rather than seeking the interest of the communities. They would have now, the president talked about clean up of Ogoni land. Ogoni clean up has been abandoned because of what? Because of lack of political will of the NDDC board and of the government. Yes. Even those that were sent on scholarship abroad, their monies have not been given to them. Several issues, no health facilities. I am from a community in AkwaIbom called Ekam in Parenin. My community, I change the roof of my building twice a year because of the oil activities happening in my community. The Chevron, the Shell, the ELF, and the mobile activities, their oil activities has affected us such that if it rains and I fetch the water and keep it in the basin for 2 hours, it turns to Fanta because it is completely polluted with oil activities and the oil and the gas being emitted in the sea. But how impactful has the NDDC, which is the government agency that's supposed to take care of my life and that of my community, how impactful is it to us? I have not seen a single president or activity or achievement of NDDC in AkwaIbom. And so it is in the 9 oil producing community. The way forward is not to scrap the commission, but is to give them more, is to put them on check. Let there be a system to check. I like what the Senate is doing. I like what the president is doing. But the political will to execute the outcome of the forensic audit is what may be lacking. We have had several of such auditing in the past in several other boards and commissions. How far has it gone is the point. So I will rest here so that my friend Clayton will take it up from there.
Okay, thank you so much. You all have made some very interesting points. Clayton, do you have anything to say before I go on to the next question on how to involve the AkwaIbom indigents from the diaspora in building the communities of AkwaIbom State? How can you involve us in that process? Because we have tried to come home, we have tried to get involved, but we always meet with this brick wall of rejection, like we have nothing to offer, like we are not even from Nigeria. Talk to us about that. But Clayton, do you have any comments on the NDDC issue before we move on to involving the AkwaIbomites in the diaspora in rebuilding the communities of AkwaIbom?
Yeah, I think that there's another thing that I don't know how that process works, and I think I stand corrected by my brother Franklin. some of these things I've gone through interviews where people talk to these senators, whoever we send to the Senate, whoever we send to the House of Reps. Interviews are very self-aggrandizing, very ego stroking. I think that we have to have a, and I think people like Franklin are in the forefront of that, where we have you asking these people what are the bills you're introducing to correct these abnormalities in the system. And this is the thing. We need to stop, because I think we have a lot. I think we've reached a stage where we say a lot about the governors. We say governor didn't do this or governor didn't do that, but we don't say a lot about, you went to the Senate, how many bills did you sponsor?
Yep.
And I mean solid bills that correct these issues that we're having right now, or solid bills that correct abnormalities that we're seeing in the system, like the issue of oversight and stuff like that. Because he's talking about that, oh, you know, this has happened and that, and then bills that would really ensure that if the forensic, for example, if this forensic thing comes out and people have to go to jail, they go to jail. You know, even if it means an amendment to a bill or addendum attached to a bill, whatever is to be done. Then for us to have, because we also have a lot of people who go to the Senate, sit down there and just drink those cups of coffees inside that chamber. And then when their tenure is done, they come back and they just say things to the people back home who know nothing about their records. They just say other things. They say lofty things, about M.M., federal government, M.M., Markedaki, so president, M.M., you take it to you say things to the locals and they're like, oh my God, you even came back alive and all that. No. What are, what are the bills that you're passing? What are the things you're doing that ensures that these lapses don't exist? So I think we have to look into that. I think the cure for what happened within this is simplifying the problem, identifying the problem, and just producing a cure. I think that it has to, they have the angle for me would be, and it's just a personal opinion, more privatization of the execution of the projects and the process, and pulling it out of the hands of the government, individuals, government officials, and stuff like that. The role of party in Nigeria, I think there has to come a point where we have to really do an evaluation of the damage it has done or the good it has done, because it's now becoming more of like the kind of arguments I used to hear as a kid. They say that people will say, yo, and all that kind of stuff. That is what it has turned into. PDP is stronger than APC. APC is editing in your war, and you use it to really bring each other down. So, and then we have the occasional same behavior. The able that jam can junction of Farabong, and there was a fight. that kind of local thinking. And who won? People are interested in who won the fight, not is there unity. So we have to change that mentality. I feel the mentality has spilled over into modern politics, and it's just sad. And so we have to stop it and just do something different. Think outside the box. Yeah.
All right, Franklin, do you have anything to say here?
Well, even though I went offline, but I heard the last part of it, talking about the Senate and some level of checks. I do agree with him. Again, the same thing I have said and will continue to say. What is that thing? Is that we are operating a democracy that is, that was built on a faulty foundation. Our constitution, made it so faulty that by the time you elect people who are supposed to be your servants, they become your leaders. And so when they go into offices, they become the lords and chase you away even from the road. They bless siren and push you to the bush.
And even inacceptable to the people, because I've tried several times to get the Commissioner of Health on this program to talk about COVID, just like the Lagos State Commissioner addresses his people about COVID, or the people of that community, and it's difficult. No answer, no acknowledgement, nothing. This kind of policy, closing everybody out, refusing to listen to, thinking that you are some kind of king in a fiefdom, it does not do well for the building of that community, and that mindset has to change. Okay, so those
That's
people
it.
who have been out
That's it.
there, how can we impact on that community? How can we help to change the mindset? Because when I came on your platform and came with these ideas on how to build the community, everybody was laughing. Oh, these people from Akata, they want to come and talk about what they don't know, what they have not seen. Listen, we have knowledge, we have things to share, we have know-how, we have been exposed, we have learned. How do we impact on changing the situation on ground in AkwaIbom State?
Yes. Let me take this question. I will allow Clayton to come in.
You're running away from it. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah. Because I want to take from my response will come out from what the governor said just this evening during his media party. A question was asked on him. How do we have the people of diaspora come to participate in the development of the state?
Yes.
Most of that we don't have somebody. We used to have an SSA on the diaspora matters. I think that was Clement Ekpat in AkwaIbom tenure. If I'm still live, I'm still live. Am I live? Hello? Am I on? Hello? Okay. Yes. So we don't have any of such persons in the current administration that can serve like a liaison officer between the state and you guys over there in the overseas. Of course, nobody's an island. Nobody has the monopoly of knowledge. You need to collaborate with people. You need to seek opinion, get to opinion pool, gather all this opinion, sift out the best, and use it to develop your state. This is what I think the government should do and should promote. So I will agree with you that you have so much to offer. You have so much to contribute to the development of your state, and so you should be given opportunity to come in and and partner with the state government. Government is talking about foreign direct investment. This thing you need to come in. How do you come in? You need somebody who should be appointed as senior special assistant to the governor on diaspora matters that will liaise with you in overseas with the government and see the areas the role you can play, the rest you can fit in, then bring those areas to the state. Of course, there is need for interface. There is need for exchange of knowledge so that we can be able to see what we can do. What you are doing today, what is a great achievement. If what you are doing today had been done much earlier than now, I think maybe the government, if they listen to this program, would have been able to pick out a thing or two from this program and add what they know and what they already have and build the state. Because here we are pouring out our minds. We are saying it the way it is. Of course. And then if the government listen to this program and pick out what we are saying here and add to what they have, I think we would have gone far from where we are today. So you need government needs to give you opportunity to come in to partner with the government to do more. And again, there is no need for anybody to see you as somebody who is anti-government. Nobody should see your program as anti-government, because what you are doing today is non-party basis. You are trying to see how we can contribute our own opinion, contribute our ideas. I am from the civil society background. I have no political party placard or forms. Likewise, Mr. Clayton there. So, but there is need for government officials to also feature on your program. Invite them to come and share their own opinion. Call them. Call us. Invite them. Invite them. Make it loud. Let them come. Invite Clayton. Invite me. We join hands and see how we can brainstorm to get it out, to sort out things. Otherwise, we might not be getting it right. Trying to exclude. And finally, I don't know whether the governor has not been getting the right advice. Why do I say this? Look at the war. I call it war because we have been told that COVID-19 is a war that we are fighting with an unseen enemy. The war that is going on with the COVID-19, the government has not included the civil society groups. We are not there. We are speaking from the outside. We only try to make noise, to shout, to create awareness without being involved in the main, policy making of how we can be able to fight the COVID-19 and achieve it. So there is need for government to open up the government Government should not be seen as a secret cult, as a cabal thing, as a cliqueism. Where if you don't belong to the party that wins, you will not be there until the government is over. That should not be the case.
Okay, thank you.
That's the point I want to make.
Thank you very much, Clayton. All of us in the diaspora, we have been sending, we're big with Western Union. We have dug boreholes. We have bought generators. We are establishing our families as if they are a local government area. Most of the things that the government should be doing to our communities or for our communities, we are doing it. From security to water to, maintaining the environment to everything. Now, we want to have a say. How can we organize ourselves into a group that will have an impact and have a real say in developing our community? Because with all that we have done, we indeed have a stake. Because if our people are uncared for, we can't just let them suffer. We have to take care of them.
Thank you very much. I would want to say this as a matter of fact, and I say this without mincing words. Number one, everything that we've talked about in this show, every single thing we've talked about in this show, really has a lot to do with mentality.
Yes.
Really doesn't have anything to do with we're telling you to buy this expensive equipment and install to make things happen. Really has to do with thinking differently. I see that one of the biggest problems we have back home is the idea of new thoughts being allowed to take reign in the system. People tend to get afraid of new thought because it's all about survival. It's all about relevance. Okay. One thing I'm seeing that the interaction between us and diaspora, one of the things I'm seeing, which is really, really scary, is, if the person comes with a new idea that shows that they're thinking outside the box, it could render me irrelevant. It challenges. They see us as a threat in some cases, because if he brings something new, then it makes me look as if I'm not doing my job. It makes me look, they're not up for the challenge of something new that changes the paradigm shift. So it's a mentality thing. It's a mentality thing.
Okay.
Two, we're still suffering from effects of the pre-colonial masters. What are the effects of the pre-colonial masters? I'm going to give a small story, a very, very short, very fast story to explain one of the problems we have. Long before Google existed, Bill Gates was in his office one day and he wrote down on it just a small piece of paper and passed it over to his next in command saying, I think search word engines is the next big thing. I think search word engines will be the next big thing. He passed it over. Now, before it could come down from his command from the top all the way down, Google happened. And he watched Google happen. By the time he tried to jump in with Bing and whatever it was too late. And so he now got up one day, and Bill Gates would have been incredibly wealthy. He got up and said, he's wealthy still though, but he got up and said, you know what, from now on, the linear structure, we won't do the linear structure anymore. We're going to do a much more horizontal structure system, so that there's an open door system where people could just walk into my office and say what, the most junior person could walk in, not the linear system where you're the king up there. You're the king up there. And then before things come down from the king down, or before things come from the bottom up to the king, a lot of time has gone. So we need we need to start seeing things from a level of partnership, not from a level of I'm the king and who are you? Yes. The only difference, the only thing that makes you look a little special is that you cross the Atlantic Ocean, but I am the king. No, on a much more horizontal side, we're partners.
Yes.
As partners, because in the partner system, like at my job, we could have a meeting and the CEO and my boss talks, and I tell my boss, I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that's going to work. And this is why I think I bring up, he doesn't see it as a challenge to his power. He sees it as an exchange of ideas. The power thing is really gone amok back home. This power thing, the honor thing, I'm the king and you're the subjects. It's out of control. There has to come a point where we can talk on an equal level, not denying your authority, but we can talk on an equal level, and you can take the idea that there's a better idea than yours. Yes. It doesn't usurp your power. It doesn't usurp your authority. Yeah. These are mentalities that the people will have to somehow shift into, or they won't be able to work with diaspora. Because diaspora, by the way we are and by the nature we're trained, we won't be able to come and sit down and listen to you do something wrong. and we just keep quiet and sit there, which is the way back home. You see, we won't be able to sit down. We'll say, no, we know something better than this. Now, here is the tragedy of back home. Every society, whether it be in Israel, if Israel hadn't interacted with diaspora, Israel would have been wiped out in the Middle East. Israel would have been wiped out. America, the American Israelites, or I call them American Jews, are the ones who made Israel what it is today. The Chinese wouldn't have made it if it's not for Chinese Americans. The nuclear secrets they have, we know how they stole them. We know the whole story down to their, imitate. I mean, everybody knew that it came a time you couldn't allow a Chinese man into any facility in America or any store with a cell phone. He's going to take a picture and send it right back to Sichuan or to Wuhan. There is an importance of diaspora. There's importance. How do you get this thing done? We want to build a spaceship. You could send us, we go, just like the Chinese did. We get information, we send it to you. Every developed society has a very powerful connection with its diaspora.
Yes.
But you cannot have a powerful connection with your diaspora if you want to be king overlord. It's not going to work, because you have to be receptive to ideas that may supersede yours.
Yes.
You have to be receptive to suggestions that show that you don't know it all. And that is a problem for our people.
Okay.
Then the threat of competition. No, we're not coming to compete. We're not coming to take your jobs. Yeah, we could give a suggestion that is way more than what the Commissioner of Health or the Commissioner of Works thought about. Doesn't mean we've now brought you little. Doesn't mean we're belittling you or demeaning you, or we're trying to make you irrelevant. It's just a suggestion to improve the society, all for the good of Rome.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All for the good of Rome. All for the good.
All for the good of Rome.
Okay, we have talked about so many things today, and the things that really jump at me from our discussion today is that we have to rise up together as brothers or perish together as fools. We have to bury the hatchet and reach across partisan lines and make peace. Because when our leaders are able to do that, the followers have no option but to unite. Another thing we talked about today was that we have to grow in succession on the capital projects on ground. We have to follow them to conclusion, because these offer an avenue for a massive employment drive of the millions of young AkwaIbomites who are underemployed or not at all employed, right? When we follow these projects with, follow them to a reasonable conclusion, adopt a maintenance culture, and see that they are working in full capacity, we'll be able to keep our young people engaged. We also need to adopt the mentality that we must perish tribalism, okay? We have to spread projects across Akwa Ibom, because like we keep saying, it's all for the good of Rome, not just for the good of my village and people alone, okay? The NDDC, we hope and pray for a time where the situations of corruption or the problem of corruption in there will be stemmed, so that what it was meant to do will come to fruition and fully benefit the communities of the Niger Delta region. Okay, these are the things that jumped out at me today. Also, we have to embrace our diaspora as partners and perish the idea of king and slaves, because that is not how to serve the people. If service is beneath you, leadership should be beyond you. You have no business in the people's business if you cannot embrace the people as partners. Okay, so these are the things that jumped out at me today. I wonder what you will have to say in closing before we say good night and goodbye to our audience. Clayton, I will start with you to say goodbye with a few words to our audience, because I know Franklin is going to give us a song and a chorus and another verse on top. So
I'll make it as simple as I can. First of all, I want to take this opportunity again to thank the host. She's been very, very gracious. Like I say, she's one of my really big role models, and she's an icon. And I hope that someday things could turn in such a way that, because she's also a stateswoman, that she could be allowed to have a greater influence or a greater impact on the society in AkwaIbom State, be allowed to actually take control of the helm of affairs in a much more higher capacity. I hope so. I will say this, and I'll just say this for the record, it all starts with the mind. It all starts with the mind. We have to agree on one thing, and that if we've done the same thing consistently for so long and we're not seeing the change we want, then let us admit to ourselves that it's not working.
Not working.
Let's try something else and let's think outside the box. If we insist that this is how they do it, so we see he moved here from Kwame, you know, the honor a government or politics as a bantere, but the people have to now start to accept one thing, and that if it doesn't change, you're hurting your children, your grandchildren, and your descendants to come.
Yes.
You're hurting them real bad. And so you now have to think about, is it your love for people, leaders, or is it the love for your destiny, your legacy, and for the country, the land as a whole? Because leaders come and go, but the land remains. The state of the land remains. Leaders come and go, but the state of the land remains. So let's look at that, and then let's have the courage to try something new. I think that's another courage, bravery, and not look at the fear of what would happen if I'm heard to be different. I don't follow the sheep herd. Let's try something new. Let's like Franklin has said, he has dared to be different. It's a tough game. I did it myself. I remember what happened. It's a tough game. You won't get a dime. You won't. People will secretly be pointing like that's the guy who says a lot of funny things. You know, people secretly point. We know that story. So it's hard, but in the end of the story, I was interested to see. I think there was a man called Ubon King that came home. Was it Ubon King or so? One of these very rich men, and he was addressing a crowd of people, and people were agreeing. People are beginning to see the need to think outside the box and have this paradigm shift. So I want to thank you so much. And I thank my brother Franklin too. And we pray for a better AkwaIbom because we love that land very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You have been really, really stable today, Clayton. You come with fireworks. But today we were able to have a good, beautiful conversation. Thank you so very much for that. Over to you now, Franklin.
Well, I don't have any chorus to sing than to continue to join your own chorus, that of Clayton. And let me also commend you for what you're doing. Honestly, when I was invited for this program, I was thinking, a nurse, what does she know about media? I can say that you are a lady of many colors. And this is very commendable.
Yes, absolutely.
Honestly speaking.
Absolutely.
Very commendable. I am so impressed.
Absolutely.
As a journalist, I in fact being interviewed by someone who may not have a stink in the media. I mean, it could be very, very tough because I could see the questions you fire at me and fire at Clayton, but finally you stood to be able to make that point. But I want to suggest, adding to what you are doing, if at the end of the day we could have some salient points being reduced out from here, like a release which can be published, and you give it to me, I send it to my own platform and then publish it. Clayton has a platform, he publishes there, we spread it across. So it will go beyond just this platform alone. That is one. Two, I want to be like featuring most frequently so that we can always take, apart from the issue of AkwaIbom, issues in the country beyond, beyond what you used to hear. There is I have more and more of those years of information to give out because of my involvement, first as a journalist, second as somebody who is a civil society person. I have much contact, so we need to see how we can partner together to be able to build not just AkwaIbom but our country. Finally, let me say that the state government should partner with you. They should be able to, their guests, their government officials should feature on your program to also sell what they're doing to the world. This is the opportunity to market the state. Of course, they should come here and market the state. In the opening, we try to project the state and package the state the way it is to the outside world. So here we are like ambassadors of the state. So we need the government to buy into what you are doing and see how they can make it from this your program. Then again, to add to what Atta said on the issue of patriotism, I think we need more of patriots, more persons who have the heart of service rather than the heart of saving their pocket into government. And again, we should try to depoliticize project. We should try to play down on politics and let governance take place. Let ethnicism be killed, nepotism be put aside, hatred, malice, disunity be put aside, so that the Spirit of God will come in and rule in the affairs of man in Akwa Ibom, to take us to the greater height, to make us to become the promised land which we have always been known for. These are what I want to say as my chorus. Thank you so much for bringing me here.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you so very much. All right.
Yeah.
And at this point, we'd like to say to our audience, thank you for spending your afternoon with us. Until we meet again on another episode of Office of the Citizen, we'd like to tell you to take care of yourself and of each other, and see you in our next episode. Thank you very much. Good night and God bless. And thank you, Clayton. Thank you, Franklin.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness. That was beautiful.